League of Legends lore is boring and I hate watching hour-long videos, so I thought why not do a series where I do short videos and interesting only facts about champions. In this video I will do champions starting with the letter D. Let's begin. Diana. Diana was raised in a place called Mount Targon, and Mount Targon is this really spiritual place where other members like Soraka and Pantheon live. Side note, she's not from Mount Targon. As a baby she was found by this group called the Solaris, and they are from Mount Targon. The Solaris is this group that worship the sun, and they're very religious, and other people like Leona are big members of their group, and they also really hate the sun. Now Diana used to be a member of the Solaris, but she one day wanted to understand why do they hate the moon so much. So she started doing her own research and found out that in the books and scriptures a lot of facts were hidden and removed, and she wanted to find out the truth. So she believes that if she climbs to the top of Mount Targon that she will find out the truth. And one day she sets off and climbs Mount Targon. She gets to the top and she ends up getting enlightened. Basically she gets like all these memories and of the past and finds out that the moon is amazing, and she gets her white hair and her, you know, her blade, the crescent blade. And at that point she considers herself a part of the faith called the Lunaris, which is basically the moon worshippers. Fun fact, when Diana gets to the top she notices that Leona was with her and she also gets enlightened. That's when Leona gets her sword and shield. And Diana finds out that the sun and moon don't actually hate each other. She tries telling Leona this, but Leona basically says F off. And she also tries to tell the Solaris priests, but they label her as a snake and batshit crazy and a betrayer, so they tell her to leave. And at that point she's an official member of the group Lunaris. Okay, Diana done. Who's next? Darius. Darius and his younger brother Draven were born in a place called Basilich. Now growing up, Draven used to get in a lot of trouble and fights, and Darius used to always help him and get him out of trouble. And when they are young they meet this girl called Quilletta who ends up being one of their homies, and they stick together as a trio. Now one day in the future an army from Noxus is led by a man called Cyrus, and he invades Basilisk. Now Cyrus is a prick, but he doesn't actually end up killing Draven, Darius and Quilletta because he likes them and he thinks that they would be useful to join the Noxian army. So he literally says to them, join or I kill you. And since they're alive, obviously they say yes. Once Darius gets to Noxus, he ends up being really powerful and a really good fighter, that he even gets labeled as the Hand of Noxus by the current Emperor of Noxus, Darkwill. Darius also gets his own legion called the Trifarian Legion, who he leads. One day Darkwill tells Darius to go and capture Freyord, but Darius goes with his group. Oh, and Freyord is where people like Ashe and Tryndamere are from, and it's this icy place. Darius goes with his army, they have a big fight, nothing really happens, they don't win, they don't lose, so Darius ends up going back to Noxus. When Darius arrives back to Noxus, he realizes that Darkwill has been killed by Swain. And what's even more surprising is that Swain had backup from Draven, Darius' little brother. So does that piss off Darius? No, not really. He actually does nothing, because Darius says that he wasn't ever loyal to Darkwill, he was loyal to Noxus, and as long as Swain has good intentions for Noxus, which he does, he doesn't give a shit who leads the country. Fun facts, on the side, Darius marries Quilletta, the girl from Basilisk. They have 2 kids together and live happily ever after. Well, kinda, because his son dies in war, his wife gets all depressed, his daughter gets annoyed that the wife is depressed and ends up killing his wife, so Darius gets really screwed over in the end. Feels bad, oh well, let's move on. Let's do his little brother now. If you made it halfway through the video and you learned something new today, please do consider like, comment and subscribing, it helps the channel a lot. Draven! So same story as Darius. Draven's older brother is Darius, he's from a place called Basilisk, he has a good friend called Quilletta, blah 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 blah. They get invaded by the Noxian army, go to a place called Noxus. Now let's do Draven's story. Now Draven also fights for wars just like Darius, but Draven actually gets quite bored and not satisfied, so he ends up leaving the army. Swain approaches Draven and tells him that the current leader, Darkwill, is weak and he needs to be getting rid of. So Draven likes the plan and ends up helping Swain getting rid of Darkwill. Swain becomes the new leader of Noxus. Draven and Swain are hated by the people, but in the end the population loves both of them because Swain's a good leader, and Draven ends up being called the Executioner because he runs this arena pit where people and criminals settle beef by fighting, but Draven is really cool and does really cool stunts, so people love him. What about the final champ beginning with the letter D? Dr. Mundo! Mundo wasn't always a zombie. In actual fact, he used to be a human, and he's from a place called Zorn. Zorn is this place where a lot of criminals are, and it's underground, and it's where people like Vi, Echo and Jinx are from. And in terms of map structure, it's below another city called Piltover, and Piltover is where Caitlyn, Jace, Heimerdinger are from. Anyways, back to Mundo. Mundo used to be an enforcer for this really evil villain guy. And one day Mundo pissed off the villain boss and he ends up throwing Mundo in the Oswald Asylum in Zorn. Oswald Asylum is really messed up. You don't actually get good treatment. Mundo was literally a lab experiment in the asylum. Dude would get cut up, injections, experiments, all of that. However, because Mundo went through so many experiments, one of them makes him really strong and big. But at the same time, Mundo loses his memory. And at this point, Mundo tries to remember who is he. But because he's surrounded by people in white coats, he starts believing that he was a doctor. Like, dude was never actually a doctor, he's just an idiot. Anyways, he starts believing he is a doctor and starts to assume that everyone in the asylum is his patient. Long story short, he treats everyone in the asylum by basically killing them. And one day that evil boss visits the asylum and notices that everyone is dead, and Mundo gets his revenge on that boss. Although Mundo thinks he's actually just treating a patient. He's literally brain dead. And fun fact, we don't actually know Mundo's name in the lore. Even when he was human, we actually don't know. Thank you so much for watching this video. These videos do take time to make, and the League community is really harsh. You get one little slip up of a fact and you get 25 comments saying why you're an idiot. So yeah, do consider like, comment, and subscribing. Check out my Twitch right here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you soon.